This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovator's Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are back here in the studio in northern Colorado. As you'll probably notice right away, the slight difference from the last time we did this show, and that I'm not wearing my baseball cap. So I did get a COVID-19 haircut in preparation for today's show. So the feedback we've got on the last video show, which was a virtual brainstorm, was pretty positive. So we've decided to take another try at it. We're going to do a virtual brainstorm today. We're going to be dealing with 3 questions. And then in the last segment, we're actually going to brainstorm ideas. And today's objective is at the end of this show, is to come up with a list of suggested features for Zoom. And that is going to be an interesting exercise. There's been a lot of changes with COVID-19 and the popularity of Zoom. Zoom shot up from, being a great video conferencing technology, primarily, focused on businesses, medium and larger sized businesses as a video collaboration tool, to now becoming used in so many variety of ways, things that are just totally unexpected. That ties into the title for today's show, which is a virtual brainstorm, Innovating for the Unexpected. And again, the objective at the end of today is to be able to show a list of feature sets specifically for Zoom to see where they go. And what we're going to use is we're actually going to use the Killer Question card deck. Now, the Killer Question card deck is the card deck of the 48 questions out of the book, Beyond the Obvious. Here's my copy of the card deck. There'll be a link in the show notes and down below for you to be able to find them. They're available on Amazon, or you can get them over at innovation.tools. But we contain everything in the show, so you have everything you need to know in order to participate in this exercise. And again, part of the objective for today is to show you how you can do virtual brainstorming sessions with yourself, with inviting other people to come on. We're going to show you again how to use Jamboard to do that. And again, just trying to model it so that you feel confident that you can go off and create a funnel of ideas on whatever issues, opportunities, needs you and your organization have. So again, sit tight. We're going to show you, reveal everything. This is live. There's been no cutting and editing and splicing things together to make them look nice. We are doing this live, so however it turns out, it's going to turn out. So this will be a fun experiment. The Killer Question card decks have 2 portions to them. On the front, from the front side of the card deck, is you have the set of questions, and then on the back side of the card deck, you have what is called sparking questions, and these are kind of questions that kind of dig in deeper, push to the next effort, next set of ideas that could be enough to spark maybe some unique or interesting insight. So today we have focused on 3 questions, 3 cards from the Killer Question card deck. The card deck is broken down, as you see here, in different colors. So on the who, what, and how. The who are kind of this gold color. The what questions are kind of in this blue color. And then the green color are the how questions. So today we're going to focus on who and what with regards to Zoom and coming up with ideas on how we would do some questions. So let's jump right into question number 1. So question number 1 focuses on asking the question, Who is using my product in a way I never intended and how? Who is using my product in a way I never intended and how? And the sparking questions are, what problems and needs are you looking to address? Are you so tightly focused on what you believe your customers' problems and needs to be that you are missing out on a potential huge opportunity? The second sparking question, how could you identify existing customers and observe how they use your product? And number 3, is there a way to give your potential customers an opportunity to play with and use your product without giving them specific parameters of how and when and why they should use it? And what do they come up with? What are the different ways they use the product? And the key when coming up with new ideas is to understand how your customers are using your product today. That is what this question is all about. So let's just hop right in, and we're going to jump on over to Jamboard. There's the question card deck that we are going to use today. And I'm going to just adjust here a little bit, pull my keyboard a little closer since I'm going to be the one typing in the ideas as we go. Now, just as a reminder, this is the Jamboard. I've put the question in the middle to try to make it so it's easy for you to follow. Down the left-hand side are all the controls for it. So let's just go ahead and hop right in. We're going to generate our first question. One of the things that I think is surprising that Zoom is being used for is with regards to education, and that is it's the one-on-one between teachers. Given that this was a product that was designed for the education space, so this includes one-on-one with teachers. It is going to also be doing a virtual classroom. Students using breakout rooms for team projects. And in fact, as you can tell, I am not focusing on the spelling here. I am just getting these up as quick as I can as I think of them. There's some other things that could be done with this, such as just students hanging out. I've heard of students just hanging out with each other over Zoom once they got into the classroom. And so what I've done here is I've used the yellow color to be kind of the primary one. And then I've just taken these and I've just kind of stacked them up, as kind of sub-ideas underneath this, trying to capture as much information as possible. So, what are some other ways that people are using my product in a way I never intended when you think of Zoom? Well, I think the next one would be SLPs, or speech-language pathologists, if you're not familiar with the terminology. And what do I mean by SLPs? These are the people inside the school systems or private practice that provide speech-language. You'll see them working with people with stutters or speech impediments. They also work with people who are on the autism spectrum. And SLPs have kind of had to hop on to using Zoom because normally these are primarily services that are offered in the school district itself. And now all of a sudden, they are being thrown out to have to go into the, that virtual world. So we're seeing, school-based, going virtual is kind of the unexpected, change that happened. We've seen there's lots of one-on-one use between the students or patients and the therapists. There's also been some interesting use of third-party apps for therapy that are virtual. that I don't think anybody ever anticipated being done over Zoom. Now, you may be asking how do I know so much about this use of Zoom, as a third-party set of apps for SLPs or just the whole SLP space? This is because this is what my daughter does. My daughter is a speech-language pathologist. So that's just two of the examples. When we come back, we're going to pick up on this particular question and continue coming up with ideas for how Zoom is being used by those outside of what we would normally expect. And in this case, we're just gathering up information before we go in and do the brainstorming. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break. Welcome back. So what are some more ideas about who is using my product, in this case Zoom, in a way that I never intended? Now, there's lots of things that have been done in press and articles about the use of Zoom, but one of the ones I found most interested was in the use of by musicians. You've seen the use of it for doing, things like, hold virtual concerts as one area. We've seen it writing new songs. In fact, if you haven't seen it, hop on over to for King and Country. They did a virtual session, and they talked about how they used virtual tools to write a new song called Together, which is for the COVID-19. The other is I've seen people giving lessons, guitar lessons or whatever over Zoom. And so here we've got the musician piece, and holding virtual concerts, writing new songs, and giving lessons. Okay, let's do one more way people using Zoom beyond what we normally would do, and that would be gymnastics and dance studios. Not something that was anticipated in the use of Zoom when it first came out. And this includes everything local dance studios to continue to work during COVID. And also one of interesting side benefit is allowing grandparents to watch when they normally can't because of where they live. So in this case, here's the gymnastics one. We've got the local dance studios at work, and we've got a lot of grandparents. Why do I know about this? I'm a beneficiary of this. My grandkids take dance and gymnastics and ninja classes for my grandson, and we get to watch, but also their grandparents on their father's side of the family who live up on the East Coast get to dial in and watch. Side benefit never anticipated. So in this case, we've come up with 4. You probably come up with 25, but we're doing it a little bit of a compressed basis for today's show. So these are 4. The yellow ones are the main theme ideas. The green post-its here are kind of supporting information, just so I can keep it in the top of my mind. So what is the next question that we should begin thinking about? And that is focused on asking our question, what feature of my products create unanticipated passion? So again, what features of my product create an unintended passion? And in this case, the sparking question is what are the features that have elicited the strongest emotional responses from my customers? How do you ensure these are carried forward both in your current and future products? And how do you avoid killing the passion? And that's important. How do you avoid killing the passion? There's going to be certain things that your product may elicit What is it, and how do you not make sure you don't mess it up? Okay. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and start thinking about what does that look like. So, what are the features that that elicited some form of passion? Now, maybe it's not even a feature; maybe just the way you market the product. So, one I think that came out early on was when Zoom gave it free to schools and teachers, right at the very beginning of the the whole COVID thing. And why did it elicit such passion? Because they did the right thing, given everything that was being faced. They also made it easy and avoided budget issues when everything else was going crazy in the world. So here it is, free to school, generated a lot of passion. And for Zoom, it was about doing the right thing. And they made it incredibly easy on the budget issues. So, what are some other areas? Well, I can tell you one passion area that a lot of people have is around virtual backgrounds inside Zoom. The virtual backgrounds allow you, if anything, to hide kind of the messiness, and it resulted in friendly competition for best backgrounds. And in my office, it's every Friday. People are showing off during what we call coffee break time their new backgrounds, and people are constantly coming up with new backgrounds. Zoom is having competitions. You can actually submit your virtual background to Zoom, right? It helps hide the messy life we all have. And I think it's also it's created a new category of designers. Virtual background creators. So here we are, we've got the virtual background inside of Zoom, very high passion feature set. My green stickies here. Just trying to keep track of everything that's coming. Again, we're asking the question, what features my product create passion for? A new one I think that we should talk about is around what we call original audio. Original audio takes away all of the filtering of audio so that it removes all the audio filters. And this is one of those features that has allowed for the music making. This is the feature that has allowed for you to listen to live concerts. Otherwise, the audio gets just all chopped up in normal video conferencing platforms. So there's a feature inside of Zoom that allows you to play what's original audio. No filtering, it just goes right through. It also reduces the latency, so it makes it a little bit easier. And it removes all the audio features. A unique feature, high passion, particularly in the music space. So with that, we'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back. So what are some additional ideas on what features my product create unanticipated passion? I think one of the other features of Zoom that generates a lot of passion is around what we call the grid view. And the grid view allows you to see upwards of 25 people or 50 people at a time. depending on, it really depends on your particular system and configuration, but you can see upwards of 25 to 50 people. And why is it such a big feature? Because it gives you the feeling that you are facing everyone in the organization. It kind of gives you a view that everybody's looking eye to eye. It's not down a long conference room table. In fact, some organizations now don't even allow video conferencing to be used in conference rooms, one, because of COVID, but even they were doing it before because everybody was then looking at each other across the table and looking kind of sideways up the table to the screen, versus a much more personal view when everybody's has their own dedicated camera, they're looking into the camera, and everybody's on the same playing field. There's not people in the room or outside the room. So grid view is one of those features that has generated a lot of passion. And what's interesting is a lot of the competitors now are hopping on. Okay, let's do one more. One more is, I think, would be ease of use. And this was something that I know the Zoom team worked on very, very hard right from the beginning, was how to make this as easy as possible. Low friction to join a room call, or a Zoom call, excuse me. I have Zoom rooms in my bus in here in my studio, so I always refer to those as room calls. So you have it makes it really easy. It's a single click, and it just works across all devices. So I've used it taking calls in my bus via my mobile phone. So I think the ease of use is one of those things that just makes it really, really simple, low friction. Churches are using it. In fact, I've been coaching and advising pastors and media teams at churches on how to use Zoom for their services. So here are just, again, 4 free to schools and teachers, virtual backgrounds, and inside Zoom. This feature is generating a lot of interest. The original audio piece, which is really designed for the music. Grid view, I live in grid view every day. And I think the ease of use. So again, what features of my product create unanticipated passion? So let's take a look at the next question. So what is question number 3? What emotional, psychological, or status benefits could people derive from using my product? What emotional, psychological, or status feature could people get from my product? So, the sparking questions on the back of the card. Does your product create a connection with its customers that goes beyond just being a good solution to their needs? Can you refine it to reflect the changing needs and desires of your customers? Is the emotional connection literally between the customer and the product, or between the customer and what the product signifies? And are there good or interesting reasons to resist an emotional connection and actively prevent one from happening? So what are these emotional, psychological, and status benefits from using a product like a Zoom? So let's hop back on over to Jamboard, and let's start cranking out some ideas here. So first idea is, being together. The one thing I hear from a lot of people when they start using Zoom, particularly since the COVID-19, it allows people to stay connected to friends and family. And this is beyond just simply staying connected to your workers. But it does allow teams to feel like they are together and working. And productive, I guess would be a better term. And so I think, the psychological benefit of Zoom is really about being, feeling like people, are together. What are some other ones? Well, I think one of them that is interesting is it reducing the feeling of loneliness. And that's the loneliness, the isolation of being apart. This is especially important for those that are alone, maybe, single, and how do they stay connected? It's helped, people help family members in nursing homes to stay connected, particularly when it comes to being able to not since you're not going to be able to visit given the COVID-19 situation, just that inability to to feel like you can stay connected when someone's not able to have visitors. I think another area that, and again I mentioned this earlier, which was feeding the spiritual needs of a community. The houses of worship, whatever your faith life is, being able to get, making people feel like they, being able to get together. So, faith groups, services, etc. And you're still being able to host those and make people feel, like they are together, that they are being part of part of that community. And this is one that I have been involved in. I've been helping some, some churches and that being able to continue to host their services on Sundays or Saturdays, depending on your particular faith background. And it's turned out to be a pretty efficient tool in that regards. I think it's interesting also when we started seeing things like governments being able to stay working via Zoom. If you haven't, if you didn't read the article, this included the UK Parliament being able to stay, the US Supreme Court did arguments over video, and I think that brings comfort and a psychological benefit, right? It's not something that's directly, I'm not sure UK Parliament or the US Supreme Court had, saw the psychological, but I think the citizens of knowing that there's technologies out there that allow the government to continue to serve their people is an important psychological, it's an emotional support for people to say, okay, everything just hasn't completely shut down, right? Now you're starting to see, local courts now using technologies in order to hold court cases and being able to, satisfy the requirements of in the U.S. of setting bail and those types of things. And there's a certain time limit that those things have to happen. And with everything shut down, it was going to turn into a really big problem. So I think this was an additional emotional or psychological status benefit. So far we have answered the 3 questions. We've gotten who's using my product in unanticipated ways, what features my product create in anticipated passion, and what emotional psychological status benefits could people derive from using the product. So next, we are going to jump right in and we're going to start ideating ideas around what features should Zoom consider. So we'll be right back after this break. So the question we want to answer when it comes to ideation is based on thinking deeply on these three questions, the three questions we just reviewed. What new features would you suggest to Zoom? Based on thinking deeply on the three questions, right? So the questions were, who's using my products in a way I never intended? What features generate or create unanticipated passion? And what emotional, psychological, or status benefit do my products generate? With those, thinking deeply on those three, what ideas, what features would you suggest to Zoom that they should add to their product? So let's hop right back into Jamboard and let's start generating ideas. So in this case, one of the suggestions that has come up that people have commented on is doing a video overlay. So this is very similar to what you're seeing me here in the corner, because I can look, right now I'm looking at the screen that's got Jamboard up, but if I'm looking directly into my camera, I can make eye contact with you even while I'm showing something behind me. It allows for a little bit more of a personal interaction. It actually ties that social connection. People who've watched this video, and I do this over Zoom for my all hands meetings, and so while I'm doing presentations to my staff, they continue to see me the entire time. The full screen doesn't wipe out their ability to see me. And a number of people have been reaching out to me to say, okay, how do you do that? What's the configuration that you do in order to be standing in front of your Zoom screens like this? So video overlay, I think, is one features that came up. The other is remote, and get this, karaoke. And this is really allowing for that social interaction occurring around around Zoom. So people can do social interaction. So people can sing. You get a little score based on you hitting the notes. How well did you do to the music? You know, the video showing with the lyrics. Everybody else can listen and cheer you on with thumbs ups and hearts and all those kinds of things. This is actually an idea that came from one person at my office who suggested this as a feature set that they wanted me to pass on. The other is pay system tie-in with Zoom. This is for the situation where maybe you are doing webinars or holding classes, and being able to, charge, if you're a lawyer, charge by the hour. If you're doing lessons, once someone connects to the lesson, they've automatically gotten charged, and Zoom plays kind of a little bit of a PayPal or any kind of other payment system. But doing it is tied to the webinar. You want to watch this course, you want to watch this webinar, jump in and do that, then you actually pay for it through. So this allows for Zoom to become a revenue generating platform for those people who are generating interesting content. So I thought that was an interesting idea. The other is TV streaming via Zoom. So there's been some features or some activities that have been occurring, particularly over at Netflix. Netflix, there's a third-party app where you can watch a Netflix film, but it actually invites everybody to watch the film. It synchronizes the film, so you literally have a viewing party that's occurring at multiple houses, and so it's kind of like having a movie night over distance. This was one suggestion again that came from somebody at my office who suggested I pass this on to Zoom, and it was TV streaming via Zoom, just so people could all be watching the show at the same time, and therefore have that social integration, that social experiment. And so I thought that was kind of of an interesting idea. So these are just 4. Could come up with a lot more. I actually have a lot more on a separate list that I'm going to be passing on to Zoom that I've collected, but I'm going to stop here at these 4. So again, going all the way back to the first question, who is using my product in a way I never intended and how? Always giving good insights into how people, are using your product in unique and different ways. And then, what features of my product create anticipated passion? Things that you just may not have expected. Virtual backgrounds I didn't think was going to be a big thing, turned into being huge. Original audio, not anticipated, turns into being very, very popular with musicians. What emotional, psychological, or status benefit could people derive? Things, again, secondary. You don't think about it in the design of a product, but it has a huge benefit. And then, based on that, using that as kind of inspiration and getting your thoughts going, then you start ideating on what features would you suggest to Zoom. So I always use the killer question card deck as kind of inspiration, kind of get the juices going, making you look deeply. In this case, we look deeply into Zoom, and then using that to generate ideas. So hopefully you found today's show as useful and beneficial from the standpoint of, one, seeing how they use the questions to generate or get yourself deep into thinking about a product, generating ideas, ideating. This I did by myself, but the nice thing about Jamboard is you can invite other people over great distances, and you can all be just throwing up Post-it notes simultaneously. And then generating the ideas that become a new feature set for the product offering. So, and also hopefully today you got to see how I do this. And therefore, hopefully you feel confident that you can go do it on your own. So I want to, first off, thank you for taking the time out of listening or watching if you're watching this on the video. And look for your feedback. Do you have a topic, an opportunity, a problem you would like to brainstorm with me? We're actually trying to think about maybe doing 2 people simultaneously. Send that to me, Phil@killerinnovations.com. And with that, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.